Hello, hello, hello. This is Kathy Cross Reese coming to you on day 66 of 365, hashtag reflections. And I have been sharing with you Proverbs every night. And this month in March, I'm reading it from the ESV version. And chapter 7 is all about the adulterous woman. The last couple of chapters have been about the promiscuous or the adulteress. So tonight's chapter was about the adulterous woman and how she lured some naive simpleton. It said, well, maybe not use those exact words, but lured in the simpleton to entice him. And before he knew it, he was ensnared. And yeah, she did it. She did it. And so, oh, I didn't take my med. And this morning, I want to share with you again about communion each and every day. I have been doing communion for, I want to say about 18 months now. Excuse me. And it is a game changer. It is what I do early in the morning, where I get up and I do this on another community. But I tell you what, each and every day, it just seems like it gets better and better. If there's such a thing, it's like, how is that even possible? And I think it's because there's a fresh manna, a fresh word, a fresh revelation, fresh insight, fresh testimony, fresh encouragement. It's just all fresh. There's nothing stale about it. It's not habitual in the sense that it's something that is just done over and over with no thought into it. It's very intentional. Every bit of that room is intentional from the opening to the closing. It's all intentional. And I'm grateful to be in that space, in that room. And so today being Saturday, I typically have my family prayer call at 8 a.m. And when I went back to sleep this morning, I did not wake up on time for a family prayer call. But the Lord was like, go ahead, open up the room. So even though it was 10 minutes before the end of the room time, I got on and started praying, and I sent out a couple of invites, and 2 people showed up. So I was grateful for that. One of them is one of my cousins who I call my brother, my twin, because we were born one day apart. And our fathers were brothers, and so we've always called ourselves twins. Yeah, so he was on the call. And then I met another cousin who reminded me on how my father made sure that we knew everyone in our family. She said that your father came into the bank where I worked and said, you look like a cross. And sure enough, she was. So it was just a good moment to reflect and see how families are connected, especially mine. I'm grateful. I have a great legacy. My father, who's deceased now, always made sure I knew who my family was. He made sure I knew who his parents were and my mother's parents. We would travel south every year. I call it the Mecca. I used to hate to go down there. But then after a while, as I got older, I began to appreciate it. When you're young, well, I see that with my grandsons. They don't really appreciate a lot of things that we value as adults. And maybe that's just the way of children. But I learned to appreciate the legacy that he left me. And that is something that I am attempting to instill in my children and my children's children. So that is what happened on the prayer call today. So I got to pray with, for, and be prayed with and for on the call. So it was just sweet, sweet. And I had some open houses today. I had 2 open houses because I have some listings that really need to get sold. So I had 2 open houses today. One, I had one couple come through, seemed interested. You never know. People come, they sound interested, then they leave, and you don't know what's real and what's not, if they're serious or not. So anyway, that was good. And then I had another open house where I had 3 different groups of people come through. And the last one seemed really interested, but again, like I said, I never know. And then this evening, I got a call from another realtor and said, well, I don't know if she was a realtor or a real estate agent. That's a whole nother story. There's a difference between the two. So she called and said, that her client was very interested, but they were contingent. Now, if you don't know what contingent is, that means they need to sell something to buy something. And my seller really needs to sell. So I don't know if that's going to work, but I relayed the message and they were pretty much like, hey, whatever it takes, just long as someone buys it. But I had questions like, is your house sellable? All those sort of things. But I'm hoping that'll work out for my seller because he really needs to sell. He and his wife moved to California and the house has been on the market over 100 days. Whew, that's a lot. And we've had price reductions almost to the tune of 100,000. That's a lot of price reductions. So it shows motivation. It just shows there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, really, from my vantage point, and probably from a lot of buyers' perspective because of interest rates, because of the economy, because of employment. All of those different factors weigh into whether people buy or not. But the bottom line is people need a place to live. That's why people buy houses or rent houses, which I happen to do property management as well as sales. But yeah, so I know that's a lot. That's like a mouthful. So the open houses were great. And then I did something for myself today because I hardly ever do. And this is my birth month. So I figured I'd do something. And I went to get a pedicure. I would show you my feet, but it would be weird to do that on YouTube. It might just be weird. So just know my feet are painted, my nails are painted the same color as my shirt. And yes, that is a K, but it's got a C in front of it. So I need to design my own shirts with just a K for Kathy, but that's a whole nother story. So I went and got my feet done, and I was the last person in the shop. And so the other people left, and the person that was doing my feet painted them and said that the polish wouldn't dry. So I ended up being there. Wow. I went in at 5. I think I was there almost 2 hours for a pedicure. It was kind of strange because it was getting dark. I was like, So he touched my toenails and they were still down. He thought they were dry, but they were down. So he took all the polish off and he put polish on again and then he discounted the price. I felt bad for him, so I gave him a big tip because I was like, wow, he spent all this time. The polish didn't dry. He said it had to be some kind of defect in the polish because it was after 15 minutes, it still wouldn't dry. That's some wet polish. I don't know, but it would dry. So he felt bad. He gave me a huge discount. And I looked at the price of what the pedicure cost because I did the works because I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I looked at the price and he discounted it $20. So I went ahead and just gave him the $20 tip. I was like, he deserves it. He deserves it. And that's what I was expecting to pay anyhow. So why not? And I was thinking, okay, I can be generous. I can be generous. So yay. And plus, I've been thinking I want to do a generous act every day. And that happened to be my one generous, well, I did a couple more, but anyway, that was my one notable generous act that I did. And then one of my daughters called and asked if I wanted to see my other grandson. I was like, of course. So I went and picked him up and then picked her up. And so tonight I have 2 grandsons here in the house. The other one decided he wanted to stay home with mom, which is fine with me because sometimes I end up sleeping in my office because there's no room. No room in the bed because they like to sleep in my bed, the grandchildren. So I'm not complaining. Believe me, I'm not complaining. I am grateful, 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 very grateful. And I'm doing some email sequencing for my offer. In case you didn't know, I did the 5-day Sheba positioning challenge, and that was fun. I enjoyed it, and I believe the people that attended it did. And so now I'm sending out my emails and my offer for the next thing, which is the Sheba plan, which is a 12-week course. So that's going to be fun. It's an interactive course, and I'll post some information on that. And that starts next week. So I'm really enjoying what I am creating by a product of being in Myron Golden's boot camp. I'm in his boot camp, and that's fascinating too. There's just so much to learn. I'm listening and learning and growing, even though I've run challenges before. He runs them in a slightly different way. So I'm learning his technique and learning to model it. But my Shiva challenge was inspired by the fact that he has a challenge called the King Solomon's Court. And I thought, King Solomon's Court? What about the Queen? What about the Queen? So I looked up the Queen of Sheba and found out some information about her. She was pretty wealthy too. And she brought all these treasures and stuff before King Solomon to, in my opinion, show off. So she wanted to let the king know she had it going on too. So she went, brought all her treasures, and she was enamored with what she came back with because not only did he knock her socks off by giving her more than what she came with, but he displayed the wisdom, which is, I believe, the principal thing, because that's what the Bible says. Wisdom is the principal thing. Above all things, get wisdom. No, it says get wisdom and get an understanding. But wisdom is the principal thing. So, all right, I think I've said all my words for the day because it's 11:33. And I tend to forget to ask this question. So I'm going to ask you a favor. Can you do me a favor and like, subscribe, and share? I always forget to say that. And then I look and I'm like, nobody's liking, nobody's subscribing, and nobody's sharing. I'm sharing. Okay. I'm sharing my day, my reflection of the day. Grateful to have a day to share and reflect. So peace and thank you for the like. I see that. Peace and blessings to you all. Shalom, shalom.